Why are we talking about dryness or even the eyes actually? This is something that is fundamental to us to have a good functioning. Talk to a person who is blind or who has disabled vision, and you would know what the amount of fear of blindness that is prevalent around. And also, the other important thing is clarity of vision is very, very important to have a fulfilling life and also do fulfilling work. Just a brief introduction to how the eye looks. Now, we have the outside part of the eye, normally which looks black, is actually a transparent dome-like structure. This is the part called the cornea. Within this is the iris, which is actually contributing to the color of your eyes. So, blue eyes, brown eyes, black eyes is contributed to by the iris. The next portion is the pupil, and inside that is our lens. Now, what is the function of the cornea? This dome-like structure performs 70% of the focusing of the rays of light. Now, we know that light falls on the eye and then it gets refracted or it bends inside and it falls on the retina. This is how an image is formed inside the eye. 70% of this bending of the rays happens at the level of the cornea. What is the function is that it protects the eyes from the outside world. It doesn't have any blood supply, therefore making it very special in terms of organ transplantation. And it is cleaned and nourished by either the tears outside and the aqueous humor or the fluid that is inside. The next is the iris. Now, as you can see that this is the colorful part of the eye and it controls the amount of light that is entering the eyes. So similar to something like the shutter of a camera, wherein the shutter increases in size when we need to take a photograph in dim illumination. The iris also has muscles which allow it to contract and make the size of the pupil big. And vice versa, when the light amount is too much, the pupil becomes very small with the aid of the iris muscles. The movement of the contraction of the muscles in the iris causes movement of the pupil, which is the round shape here. This helps in maximizing the visual perception and the visual acuity also. The next remaining 30% that we spoke about for the bending of the rays happens at the level of the lens. This provides the refractive power to the eye. It allows eyes to clearly focus on objects within a 6-meter range. So when we say 6 by 6, it means that for someone who should be standing at 6 meters, he is able to see the finest size of object that it should be visible to him. Now, the lens also has something called UV protection. So we know that in spectacle shops, if you have been purchasing spectacles, many of the owners try to sell you UV protective glasses. Now, if you have the natural God-given lens, then actually these are not useful because we already have UV protection inside a natural crystalline lens. Now, coming to the point in discussion, that is the tear film. Now, over and above all these layers, outside the dome of the cornea that we looked at, is a tear film layer. Now, although it is a very fine or very thin layer, it consists of multiple interfaces which comprise of lipid, water and mucin. So it's not exactly a mathematical structure which is seen here, but this is for just for our understanding. The lipid layer seems to be the outermost, aqueous layer in between, and the mucinous layer last. However, the mucoaqueous layer is known to be an integrated layer. So why do we need this tear film layer in front of the eyes? This is very important for clarity of vision. So sometimes if you have noticed when you are tired or towards the end of the day, or if there is some sort of discharge in your eyes, if you blink several times, your vision becomes clearer. It gives some sharpness to the vision. This is the function of the tear film. Now, along with the cornea and the lens, the tear film also contributes to the refractive power. Because the cornea is also clear and glass-like, the shine to it or the smooth surface to it is given by the tear film. Another important function is that the lipid layer provides lubrication. Now, we blink several thousand times in a day. Why do we not feel that we are blinking every time? This is because of the presence of a tear film which acts as a lubricant. So just like in an engine or in a car, the wheels rotate several times and yet it is a smooth rolling. This is the oil or this is the tear film that allows it to run smoothly without us realizing how many times we are blinking in the daytime. Now, the mucin layer is actually a shear force. It acts to reduce the shear force when we blink. So all these three layers are very, very important in the bleeding function of the eye. Now, another important aspect of the tear film is that it contains several enzymes. These enzymes have several antibacterial, antifungal properties, which protect us from the attack by either bacteria or viruses or fungi. Now, these inadvertently, either during driving or during bike riding or driving, or just by the presence of pollutants in the air around us, may enter the eyes. Normally, the tears also physically wash out and flow out if there is any large foreign body entering the eyes. Another important function is also to provide the nourishment to cornea. So the external aspect of the cornea, which is around 500 microns thick, receives its oxygen supply from the tears itself. Therefore, for contact lens users, when we talk about using contact lenses at night, it is a strict no, because anyways contact lenses reduces the oxygen consumption by the cornea, and wearing them at night, it means that the blink function is not there and the tears are stationary. Therefore, oxygen consumption or oxygen nourishment to the cornea is not being met with. Now, where are these tears produced? These very important tears are produced in a fossa that is present in our eyes in this area. So this is the lacrimal gland. It produces the secretion, which is very similar in composition and pH to actually our salivary gland production also. Through the lacrimal gland ducts, it is flowing into the upper lid fornix. Through the upper fornix, it flows down, and then by the blink function, it goes to the tear ducts. Now, these tear ducts are present at the innermost angle of the eyes. Through these ducts, they are now pumped into a small lacrimal duct, which opens into the nose. So, as you may have noticed that when we cry or when we have excess of tear production from the eyes, we also get some amount of water in our throats, or our nose also starts flowing. This is due to the presence of these ducts. Now, this is the normal flow of the tears. What happens in dryness? Now, in dryness, either you don't have enough quality or you do not have enough quantity of the tears. Now, many a times dry eye disease in terms of computer vision syndrome is more of demand and supply imbalance. I'll come to this later. Now, what are the causes apart from the computer strain that can cause the dry eyes? Dryness is the production of tears is related to the hormones, and as we grow older, these hormones may reduce, and therefore most commonly dry eyes are experienced by people over and above the age of 60 to 65 years. Women typically, because their hormones drop after menopause, have chances of dryness even before that, maybe 40, 45 also. Another common association is with the use of oral contraception. Also, other medications such as antihypertensives, very commonly blood pressure medicines that is, and decongestants, antidepressants, all these commonly used medications also lead to significant amount of dry eyes. Another important association is the presence of thyroid disease, that is, hypothyroidism commonly leads to dryness of both the skin and as well as of the eyes. Another association is also that of diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis patients typically have an immunological disease that is going on. Their own cells are attacking their joints. Likewise, those cells also attack their lacrimal glands. Now, this is a very chronic process, and very severe dryness may result from this disease. Other environmental conditions also include like presence of a dry climate, like we see in Hyderabad. Also, the other factors such as digital overuse of digital gadgets. Now, one of the causes listed is refractive surgeries as LASIK. However, I must say that this issue is temporary, and this happens only because during the surgery of LASIK or any other PRK, we are cutting the corneal nerves, and these nerves typically tend to grow back within a period of 3 to 6 months. Therefore, the dryness is only temporary. Now, very severe dryness is also caused by some serious but very rare conditions called like Sjogren's syndrome, graft versus host disease, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Now, these are very, very rare congenital disorders like dysautonomia, Algrove syndrome. More commonly, we also have dryness due to poor nutrition that is seen in the lower socioeconomic strata. Now, how will you, what would you feel when you have a dry eyes? So these are very inconspicuous symptoms such as redness, very mild sort of redness, not the kind of redness where your eyes look very red, just a dull kind of pinkish color. Pain may be there, which may be again the dull kind. Stinging, severe pain is not associated in dryness. Fatigue is a very common symptom. You just feel tired. The periorbital area feels droopy. You feel like you should just close your eyes and sit. Stinging or burning sensation is another common symptom, commonly seen when the lipid layer is dysfunctional. Uncomfortable contact lenses, once again, since we are working prolonged hours on the screen, and if we are using contact lenses at the same time, these may lead to discomfort in contact lenses. Again, like I described in the beginning, episodes of blurring of vision. This blurring of vision may be cleared by repeated blinking. One also may feel that there is sort of a foreign body that is lodged in the eye. That is a very common symptom that we may be having. Also, drooping of eyelids or decrease in our level of activity or level of functioning in front of the system. Now, what is digital eye strain or computer vision syndrome? So it is actually a number of things that come together, and it happens typically for those who are using the digital screen for more than 6 to 8 hours per day. Now that is almost everybody, because with the change in the world due to C-19, we have all started using a lot of the system, including in the medical profession or in professions where digital had no business at all. So what happens is, when we are looking at a screen, our blink rate tends to decrease. This leads to a lot of effort during focusing, and leads to evaporation of tears, and leads to the muscles becoming tired very fast. Now, this is just a graphic representation of increase in computer usage in 2019. Now, this is pre-COVID, and I must say that this must have at least tripled in the post-COVID era. So, what is exactly the cause? Why do we have dryness or decreased blink when we look at the digital screen? So we all know that, of course, you guys know better than me that the screen is comprised of tiny pixels or tiny dots, and it's very hard for our eyes to focus. Therefore, anybody who's looking at a screen is invariably and unconsciously focusing and refocusing again to keep the images sharp. So the function of our eyes is to give us clear and crisp vision, which many of the times we are reflexly trying to focus and refocus. So this results in the receptive stress of the eye muscles. Second thing is also, because when we look at the screen, we tend to stare at it. This is again a reflex thing, and because of that, the rate of blinking decreases. So of course, as the word depicts, digital eye strain implies not just computers but also laptops, televisions, smartphones, tablets, anything with a screen which displays a light. So again, some of the other symptoms of computer vision syndrome, since we are talking about a syndrome, we also may have other systems that are affected. For example, there may be headache, or there may be pain in the neck, back and shoulder. So normally we blink around 14 times in a minute. So this is all happening subconsciously, and we don't have to actually measure the number of times we are blinking on any normal day. However, it is found during observational studies that down to very slow rate of 4 to 6 times per minute. Another very important thing that is happening now is use of air conditioning. When we air condition the air, we are only talking about the temperature and not about the humidity. A cold climate with a low humidity is very, very harmful to the dryness. So low humidity with a chilled environment will lead to evaporation of the aqueous layer. This leads to exacerbation of dry eye symptoms. And the same concept also happens to inside our cars, in our offices, even at home. Now this leads to progress in the, and chronically it leads to change in the tear film. So another pre-COVID problem was that frequent air travel will exacerbate dry eye symptoms. So average air humidity in the aircraft is 9 to 28%, whereas on an average day over in a city like even Hyderabad, which is said to be dry, it is almost around 60 to 70%. So now, if the humidity is less, our tears are going to evaporate, leading to increase in the exacerbation of symptoms. Now, what is the tear? I mean, why are we talking about this so much? Now, the tears, like we saw, are very important to prevent infections in the eyes. Without that, the lubricant of the eye is absent, which means that our blink is going to be very strained and a lot of effort goes into it. If we don't treat, what happens? There may be some chronic changes. There may be exacerbation of some inflammation in the eyes. That is, the eyes may become more and more red, and there may be some abrasions that may happen on your corneas. Now, the cornea is like a glass. If there is nothing to protect it, there is no protective tear film, then there may be abrasions. More insidious and more impactful is actually the decrease in the quality of life. So some people are not able to function beyond 8 hours just because they have dryness in the eyes. Now, how should we? Yes, Miss Shivani has raised her hand. Maybe we could take that question.
Yeah, doctor, we can take the questions once you are done with the presentation. Doctor, we can take the presentations.
Sure, I understand.
All right, thank
you. So, what are the 10 steps towards preventing dry eye disease or tackling dry eye disease? Or so, what do you need to do is get a comprehensive eye exam sometime. We should know whether we need glasses or not. You should share with your eye care provider how many hours do you work on the computer, how far are your eyes located from the screen. Revisit these things. Now, also another very important aspect is the light that is coming out from your screen. So I always ask my patients whether they are using an anti-reflective coating. Many of the times, an anti-reflective coating is already inbuilt in your system, but it has not been switched on. So this is very important and should be seen in your own system. Another thing is your ambient lighting, whether the lighting is too high. So in most offices, if the lighting is very bright, then your screen brightness is lesser than that, causing a little bit of discomfort to you. Now, if the external light is even more bright, then it causes even more discomfort. So all these are guidelines that have been provided by years of research. So we need to have ambient lighting to be less than that of your screen. Now, even fluorescent bulbs, light bulbs, number of bulbs or number of tubes that are there, these all need to be less than the guideline. Now, another an important thing of work from home situation is that, in fact, at home, if you see that the guidelines of lighting, home lighting is far lesser than the lighting that used to be at work. So that could cause some other kind of discomfort because you're working constantly in a very dim light and you're staring at a screen that is very bright. That could also lead to, conversely, to more strain because of the staring that may be happening. Another very important aspect is the angle at which you look at the screen. So typically, if I'm looking up at an object, then my eyes are wide apart. Whereas if I'm looking down, then my eyes become a little narrower slit. So position your computer or your screen so that you're looking down at the screen rather than looking up at it. This not only leads to neck discomfort looking up, it also increases the width of your eyes, leading to probably more evaporative loss of the tear film. Now, these are also important points such as glare on the walls and the finished surfaces, and the presence or absence of an anti-glare screen, as I said. Now, what if you have an old system, or your systems keep changing, and you don't know whether the next system that you're going to use will have anti-glare system screen installed or not. In that case, I would suggest that purchasing an reflective coated plain glass, if you don't need a number, or if you have a number, then anti-reflective coating on top of that would make a lot of sense, and also reduces a lot of the hidden strain that we have on our eyes. Now, LCD screens are better than the old tube style monitors, definitely. And also, like we saw, the pixels are the ones that cause the strain on the eyes. Therefore, try and use the highest resolution possible. Larger displays are less damning. Display that has a diagonal screen size of at least 19 inches is preferable. So text size and contrast, if you see that this kind of a text background wherein you have a very busy background, it's very difficult and tiring to read for a long duration. Another thing is very low contrast, like this is yellow and background is yellow, is again better avoided. This kind of a black text on a white black background is the best thing. Other combinations, for example, our macula is most receptive to yellow light. Therefore, using a yellow light as a background and then using its counterpart, that is blue light, as a text color works very well. Now, this kind of a statement is easy for me to make, but I wouldn't expect any of you to actually count the number of blinks that you are going to do in a minute, because it's actually impractical and impossible for us to think about how many times am I blinking in while looking at the screen. So rather than that, I would say that take a break every 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and then consciously work your efforts towards looking at the distance. Now, another exercise is also that look away from the computer at something that is green. So you can open the window, go out for a walk, have a break. So this kind of prevents the focused viewing of towards the computer that you have been doing. Now, this take 15-minute breaks is something that perhaps if any of you are service at the top levels, you may frown upon what I'm talking about, because you don't want your employees to take 15-minute breaks. But the fact of the matter is that constantly looking at the screen is very tiring, and unless you have a game plan in action, it's going to be very tiring for you in the long run. Now, other aspects, that is, you need to position your computer screen at a 20 to 24 inches away from you. The center of the screen should be 10 to 15 degrees below your eyes. Adjust your workstation and your chair to the correct height. So you should not have that the workstation is much higher than you, or you are very tall, such that your feet are hanging. And also, if you are using also if your feet are hanging from the ground, it's going to cause some discomfort. If your neck is in the wrong posture, if your back is in the wrong posture, it's going to contribute to the computer vision syndrome. Now, the desk lamp typically should be falling from behind you and not into your eyes. And also light your coffee stand properly. Now, these are all pre-COVID again. At home, I would say that you should make sure that the lighting is sufficient enough. Now, modify your eyeglasses to customize computer glasses. Like I said, anti-reflective coating is very helpful. Computer glasses are also a good choice if you're wearing bifocals or progressive lenses, and can be added to those as well. And contact lenses, typically, I wouldn't say avoid them when you're using, but if you're working like 12 hours and 14 hours on the system, it's best to take a break, remove the contact lenses for an hour or so after 8 hours, and then reinsert them. So a lot of patients ask me, what should I eat, or what should I drink, what should I make? Now, a lot of green leafy vegetables, lot of vegetables that are rich in vitamin E, like anything that is yellow, papaya or carrots, are really good for the eyes. Of course, as is true for any other system, the kidney and the eyes also, drink plenty of water. Now, flaxseed oil has been mentioned to be rich in omega-3 fatty acid, which is very good both for the eyes and for the heart. Although studies say otherwise, we have plenty of anecdotal evidence and patients who are very satisfied with the use of omega-3 fatty acid either as a capsule supplement or in the form of naturally present in both in flax seeds or fish or almonds. Of course, too much of anything is bad, but red meat is not great for the eyes. Too much of fat is not great for the eyes, and as is for anything else, or typically for our waistline, carbs are not good. So these are the signs and symptoms where I would say that don't hesitate to contact a medical professional. A lot of medical professionals are now available on for video consultation. We can fortunately take reasonably good resolution photos on any average mobile phone. So any eye which is red or painful, which is having discharge, or you can see a visible lesion on the lid or the eyes. If there has been any previous trauma to the eye, which is leading to either a loss of vision, or you feel that the eyes have suddenly bulged out. If you have symptoms of dryness along with joint pain, swelling, or stiffness of joints, if your dry eyes are associated with a dry mouth, because then these two indicate some sort of a systemic anomaly, and eyes which are not responding to the commercially over the counter available tear substitutes like Refresh. All these are indications that you need to seek help. So now we have a wonderful option of video consultation as an interim measure before actually visiting a doctor. It saves time, it saves the doctor and the patient their traveling problems, and also gives us an understanding whether it's serious enough to travel to the doctor or not. Now, in summary, when there is not enough when there is demand supply imbalance in the tears, you get a dry eyes. So, like in computer vision syndrome, the demand is very high since our eyes are being used a lot on the system, and the supply is normal. So, although we are very healthy, our tear manufacturing is very healthy, yet the demand is so high that there is an imbalance leading to dryness. Now, due to the this imbalance, lubrication and nourishment to the eye is insufficient. Computer vision or digital eye syndrome is one of the major reasons for dryness. To avoid these dryness, you could actually make significant measures ergonomically at home, in the lighting conditions, in your own sitting position, and in your system to avoid this dry eyes. And of course, we also saw in which situation should you contact a medical professional. Thank you very much for your patient listening.